Hey y'all, what is up? I heard my music and I don't know about y'all. Sometimes there's a song that just perks me up. And I've been a little bit tired today. I just came out of some meetings and I was like, I'm a little tired, but we're going to find some energy. And I don't know what it is. It's just knowing I'm going to speak to all of y'all and I hear my theme music, then everything seems to be all right. In that moment, I find energy. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it comes from my pinky toe or if it comes from a big toe, if it comes from my ankle, if it comes from the earth, but somehow I find some energy to make this happen. So, welcome. As you see from the background, I am back in the A. So, as they would say, you can find me in the A. I'm so happy to be back home. Excited to be talking to you about this topic. Does inattention equal ADHD? You might be like, Dr. Ericka, why are we even talking about that? The first thing is no matter if I am doing patient consultations, if I'm speaking on a stage, if I'm on a panel, the question always comes up about ADHD. It's so frequent that people say they have some issue with focus or concentration or inattention. They're like, do I have ADHD? Think I got ADHD. I really think I got ADHD. And I wanted to talk about it because there are some things you need to know about inattention, not just the A to the D to the H to the D. So let me tell you a couple of things. The first thing is you come in, let me know how you are doing and where you are watching. The next thing is if you know someone that needs this, please share. The other option is you can tag them. There's a little button at the bottom. The other thing is if you're watching it later, don't even worry about it. Put hashtag replay in the comments. I'm just happy to know that you showed up for yourself and you showed up for me. I feel all of the love. Giving you lots of love. So let's go ahead and get to it. I am your host, Dr. Ericka, Harvard-trained, double-board certified psychiatrist and integrative lifestyle coach. I'm irrationally passionate about helping you be better, do better, and live better. I do that through my adult telepsychiatry practice, my books, including my latest book, Fix Your Fairy Tale, A Woman's Guide to a Great Life, Love, and Legacy, my corporate speaking, along with my podcast, Better with Dr. Ericka. If you listen to my podcast, that intro music for this sounds probably a little bit familiar. I do all of that to help busy people like you that give and show up for your friends. You show up for your family. You show up for work, but you may not show up for yourself. I do all this to put you back in your life. So as I said before, we're talking about does inattention equal ADHD? As I said before, part of the reason we're talking about this is this question comes up all the time. People are forever saying, I have problems focusing. I think I got the ADHD. So let's talk about it. So thanks, y'all. I appreciate y'all coming in, feeling all of the love, like all of the love. So let's talk off number one, besides the fact that everybody and their mama asked me a question of do they have ADHD? If you ask me what was probably the most frequent question I get is, do I have ADHD? Do you think I have ADHD? What do I do about ADHD? Is the first thing to remember is 4% of American adults over the age of 18 deal with ADHD on a daily basis. If I think of how many people ask me this question, it is more than 4% of the adult population. So to me, what that underscores is there are a lot of people with inattention. Most of them actually don't have ADHD. So let's go to the next fact. And let me get rid of the old fact. And apparently we have a ticker scrolling. That was not what I meant to do, but we are rolling with it. 21% of adults, so around 1 in 5, experienced mental illness in 2020. And that number has been floating around there for a while. So 1 in 5 people have some sort of mental illness. And we're going to put that in context as we talk through the answer to this big question that we talked about. And then we have during the pandemic, about 4 in 10 people in the US reported symptoms of an anxiety or depressive disorder. So we have 4% of adults with ADHD, 1 in 5 having mental illness in 2020, but also 4 in 10 were having symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder during the pandemic. So all of this is really just to demonstrate that we have a lot of mental health symptoms going on right now. And those mental health symptoms are showing up a few different ways. Now, one of the reasons why I want to have this conversation is the first thing to remember is that inattention or poor concentration or poor focus, people will often use those language. So they'll talk about focus, concentration, or attention. That is a simple, since I can't talk today. That is a symptom. So inattention itself is a symptom, not a diagnosis. As I said, it's a symptom, not a diagnosis. So everyone with inattention does not necessarily have ADHD, even though most people with ADHD have poor attention. All right, got it? So let's talk about why it's not. Well, part of the reason you see a lot of people may have inattention and not have ADHD, we went through some statistics of 1 in 5 US Americans having a mental health issue in 2020, and then 4 in 10 complaining about anxiety or depression during the pandemic. Is there are numerous things that inattention or poor focus or poor concentration can be a symptom of. You can see poor concentration. Naturally, yes, you can see it in ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But you can also see it with depressive disorders. You can see it with anxiety disorders, such as generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, PTSD, or just when people are feeling sad or anxious and don't even meet criteria for a disorder. You can also see it if people are having psychosis and hearing voices, seeing things, delusions, all that stuff. You can see inattention there. If people are suffering with mania, you can see inattention there. People can have poor concentration with insomnia. You can have poor concentration with malnutrition and food insecurity. You can have poor concentration with substance abuse. You can have poor concentration with learning disorders. Ironically, you will see what people will say is poor concentration in schools, even for gifted students, because they're bored. So, as you see, as we talk about this, is there are a myriad of things that can have poor concentration as a symptom, which makes sense given that so many people are identifying poor concentration and that there are so many people struggling with some mental health disorders that are not actually ADHD. And there are times where you've seen it in the pandemic where you're stressed, you feel like you're pushed to capacity, you may not meet criteria for a mental health disorder, and you have poor concentration. So it's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is number one, this question comes up all the time. Like almost, it's very rare that I speak. And lately, a large chunk of even my consultations for my practice have some question that's related to this. The reason this is important is that if you think you're having concentration issues and they're getting on your nerves or getting in the way and you need something done about them, you need to be assessed by a trained professional. Now, there are a few different disciplines that can do different assessments depending on what's going on. But the main thing is you want a trained professional. Naturally, I probably have a soft spot for psychiatrists and licensed mental health professionals like psychologists. Um, but there are developmental pediatricians. Sometimes pediatricians will do it, sometimes primary care. But the main thing is you need someone that's going to be able to fully assess you and look at the wide range of things. Because the first thing is if you have poor concentration and you're depressed, the treatment for ADHD isn't going to work. If you're having poor concentration and it's related to malnutrition or just a vitamin deficiency, because sometimes people will have vitamin deficiencies and they're still eating, that's not going to get fixed by ADHD treatment. If you're having poor concentration and it's related to perimenopause or menopause, that treatment is different. So the main thing is you need a qualified professional to assess you so that you get the right treatment. So that's what I want to let you know is that there's a wide variety of things to look at. And there are people that are highly trained to help you through it. You don't have to figure all this out. It's a lot. But I wanted to talk about it. So again, if you're watching this, you know someone that needs this, please tag them. The next is you can also share. Sharing is caring. And the last thing, if you're watching it, put hashtag replay in the comments. And if you miss something, you can always go back to the beginning. So thank you all so much for coming. As we talked about, inattention does not always equal ADHD. Inattention can be a symptom of a myriad of things, from hormonal imbalances, problems with your thyroid, perimenopause, menopause, to malnutrition, to depression, anxiety, psychosis, bipolar disorder, stress, learning disorders, even being gifted in school, a wide variety of things other than ADHD. So I just want you to be able to get the right treatment. And sometimes the treatment is actually working on getting you some sleep, because just sleep deprivation alone can cause poor concentration and inattention. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to give you first a big round of applause for showing up for yourself. I appreciate you showing up for me, but you actually really showed up for yourself. I want to also let you know Tuesday's podcast day. So guess what? We had a podcast drop today. My featured host is Dr. Randy. You're going to want to catch this one because we talk about all kinds of pivots, changing different professions, financial health. We talk about all the things. So you're going to want to hop on for that. You can find the podcast Better with Dr. Ericka at betterthepodcast.com. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, all of the usual places. I would love to have you see it or listen to it. And if you like what you hear, please follow or subscribe, and also rate and review and share. Helps me bring even better content. And I'm just so happy to have you in my world. Next thing is, if you are struggling and you want to be assessed for something mental health, I do have a virtual practice. Just go to askdrgoodwin.com, askdrgoodwin.com, and you can find me there. Next thing is, I want you to take your left hand, put it on your right arm, take your right hand, put it on your left arm, give yourself a squeeze, a big hug. You deserve it. Physical touch even counts if it's from yourself. I want to send a lot of love. As you know, Tuesday's Growth Groove with Dr. Ericka. You can find me here at 7 p.m. Eastern. Podcasts release on Tuesdays too, so Tuesdays are my big day. If you have any questions or want to pop something in, just feel free to pop it in the comments and I will circle back to it. But I want to tell you, have a great evening. Said I wasn't going to keep you in here too long, and I did not. Sending you out with lots of love. I look forward to seeing you next week. Start missing me a lot. You can always look at some past videos or binge the podcast. Bye.